What's up guys, Wilson here, back with another YouTube video. Today I'm gonna be giving an overview, kind of like a review and recap of the movie The Devil All the Time. It has a lot of different actors in it. Maybe you'll know some, including like Tom Holland, who is Spider-Man. We got Sebastian Stan, who was the Winter Soldier from Marvel as well. There's Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise in the movie It 1 and 2. We also have Robert Pattinson in this movie, who is going to be the new Batman, so that's pretty cool, right? So basically, yeah, I'm just going to share my thoughts. This is definitely going to be a heavy spoiler review, okay? I'm going to jump all over the place, but hopefully everything becomes clear and makes sense by the end. So yeah, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and let's just jump right into it and not waste any more time. Alright, first things first, you could find this movie on Netflix. I'm just gonna read a little of the summary. It says, there's unholy preachers, crooked lawmen, murderous lovers. In a godforsaken place surrounded by sinners, a honorable young man seeks justice. This movie was based on a novel written by Donald Ray Pollock, who is also the narrator of this movie, which is pretty awesome. I'm happy that they have a narrator because it helps you understand what's going on, like, a lot more easily. So I would say this movie is definitely mysterious. Here it says ominous and dark. There's a lot of tragedy. It has a lot to do with vengeance and justice as well. The setting of the movie primarily takes place in about 2 to 3 locations. One is Meade, Ohio, and the second one is a place called Coal Creek, West Virginia. Before the main character was born, who is named Arvin Russell, we got Bill Skarsgård, who is named Willard Russell. So Willard, he just came back from World War II in 1945. He sees this man on a cross named Millard Jones. He was basically crucified by the Japanese while he was still alive, and that really haunted him. It really impacted his religious faith, and I guess it made him not want to practice his faith anymore. By the time he was trying to go back to Coal Creek, West Virginia, which is where his home is, he made a stop in Meade, Ohio, where he met his significant other and lover. Her name is Charlotte. She was a waitress, and at the same time when he met her, we see 2 other characters who are known as Carl and Sandy Henderson. Basically, both couples eventually get married. But before Willard actually gets married to Charlotte, he goes back home without getting her name at one point, and back at home his mother named Emma and his uncle, they were there at home. They were very supportive and cool. His mom tried to hook him up with this woman named Helen, but he wasn't really interested. Helen seems to be someone who's very religious, and the funny thing is, instead of marrying Helen, he married Charlotte, but then Helen fell in love with the preacher back at home, and his name was Roy Lafferty. Yeah, so Willard got married and had a son named Arvin. They also had a dog named Jack, and Arvin was totally in love with Jack. They basically moved to a little small town, I think close by Meade, Ohio, called Knockemstiff. Willard eventually created his own sanctuary there with a cross, kind of in honor of the Millard Jones guy who was crucified by the Japanese in the World War II. Yeah, so he basically got his faith back, and he was constantly practicing, and he also wanted his son Arvin to practice. For some reason, the family wasn't really liked being around there, so Willard taught Arvin that you can't let people mess with you, including bullies. You gotta retaliate, you know, even with the use of violence. Jumping a little further, Charlotte gets cancer, and it's not treatable. She's basically dying. And Willard and Arvin, they just try to pray for her as much as possible. Willard goes to the extreme of even sacrificing the dog, Jack, to try to save his wife, but that didn't work out. She ended up dying. Willard was just so devastated, and he couldn't get over the fact that his love was gone, and he ended up committing suicide, which is really, really sad. Crazy thing is that Willard committed suicide on the day of his wife's burial. And then we got a policeman by the name of Lee Bodecker, who was there at the time. He basically took Arvin and got him situated to go back home to his grandma Emma and Uncle Urxel. Now that Arvin went back to Coal Creek, he meets his grandma, uncle, and he also meets Lenora. Lenora is the child of Helen and Roy Lafferty. The thing is that Lenore was adopted by Emma because While Roy was having his moment as a preacher, trying to reach to God, he got bit by a spider. He started getting hallucinations and hid in a closet because he was so ashamed of how much his freaking face got puffed up. And eventually he felt enlightened that he has powers from God or something. He took Helen out on a trip along with his other friend, who's not really important in my opinion, and he ends up killing Helen by stabbing her in the neck with like a screwdriver or something. And he wanted to revive her and resurrect her, thinking that he had all these powers, but it was actually due to hallucinations from like spider bites. He literally murdered his wife, and that's how Lenora was left behind with Emma and lived with them ever since then. Just to finish off Roy's story, he tried to flee, but he came across Carl and Sandy Henderson, and they're basically serial killers. Carl has this thing about taking photos and is into necrophilia, so they would pick up hitchhikers and they would let Sandy basically have sex with them. Carl tried to get Roy to basically hook up with Sandy, and Roy wasn't about that, so Carl just shot him just straight up in the face. But normally Carl would just watch them like have sex with his wife, and then eventually they would kill him and she would still be doing sexual acts to the bodies, and he would take all these pictures, you know? Yeah, so basically Roy's dead and Arvin is now living with his aunt, uncle, and his new stepsister. A little about Lenora is that she is very devoted to her faith, and she is also the type of person who likes to visit her mother's grave. I guess it's a way to communicate with her, and that happens to be next to the church. Growing up, Arvin learned that there's like a lot of bad people from his father Willard. Lenora had bullies, and he just beat the shit out of all of them, and yeah, wanted to protect his little sister, you know. Meanwhile, while he was trying to defend her by beating up all the bullies, there's a freaking new priest in town, new reverend, and it's freaking Robert Pattinson. His name is Preston Tegarden. Right, so he's new in town, he just finished his Bible school or something, like graduated. And yeah, this guy was basically taking advantage of women, like young women throughout the town. He was trying to come off as like a holy man and stuff. In reality, he wasn't. He was literally seducing people, and he eventually seduced Lenora, which is super sad, and even got her pregnant. And she didn't even realize it because he made her think that it was all of God's work or nothing ever happened between them, and she probably just slept around with other dudes or something. And now the fact that he got Lenora pregnant, it caused Lenora to commit suicide. She hung herself. She was so ashamed and everything. She wanted to live in the last moment, but she couldn't get out of it because it was already too late. And Arvin suspected that it had to do with the preacher. Arvin confronts him. It gets pretty crazy. Arvin has like this Luger. He has this 9mm pistol from his father Willard from the World War II. It was passed down from Uncle Urxel on Arvin's birthday. And yeah, he used that and basically killed the preacher. After that, he needed to escape town, his hometown. I guess he left a letter, or there was some type of evidence to show that the preacher was doing some really nasty things in town. So as he left, I was wondering how he would connect with like Carl and Sandy, but the funny thing is he became a hitchhiker. They found him on the road and they wanted to use him as, you know, another potential victim. At the same time, you could tell that Sandy was kind of getting tired of Carl and even wanted to kill him at one point, or at least leave him. But yeah, as they targeted Arvin, Arvin became suspicious because he saw Carl's gun in his pocket and everything. And before the couple was able to do anything, Arvin basically killed them both. And the crazy thing is that Sandy is actually the sister of Lee Bodecker. So he found out his sister died. Just to briefly get into the backstory of Lee Bodecker, he's basically a corrupt cop. He became a sheriff. He really wants to be reelected. His sister is basically known like as a whore in town, and he's very corrupt. He's been working with this like mob boss or something, but he ends up killing the mob boss just to get out of all of that shit, right? He basically wants revenge now that his sister's dead, and everything pinpoints to Arvin because Arvin previously killed the preacher with the 9mm, and now he killed 2 more people with the 9mm. Obviously in self-defense. Arvin wanted to finally give a proper burial to Jack because he did promise that he would bury his dog Jack after his father used the dog as sacrifice. But we got Lee Wildecker, who's like chasing after him, and he brings like a shotgun and tries to legit kill him, but in the end Arvin manages to shoot him like in the gut, like stomach or something, and kills Lee. But right before Lee dies, Arvin wanted to prove to him that his sister was really a serial killer along with her husband, and had photos to prove it because the couple tend to like take photos and stuff. The thing is that Lee knew about this because he went to like the couple's apartment and found all these photos and stuff, but he really wanted to save his image and be re-elected without any problems. Yeah, that didn't work out. As you can see from this point, a lot of shit has happened. At least Arvin managed to bury his dog Jack properly, like he found his bones, and even buried the Luger, the pistol, right next to it. Yeah, after that, there's nothing left for Arvin, right? If he goes back to Emma and Uncle Urxel, there will be a lot of problems potentially, even though it was a justified killing, but at the same time, it's not really up to him. He becomes a hitchhiker again. He meets a hippie who takes him to Cincinnati, and at that moment, he's like super tired. He's just tired of everything, and he's kind of reluctant to fall asleep because he doesn't want anything to happen, you know, because you can't really trust people. Basically, that's like the theme of this movie. It's hard, like there's like a devil within everyone. Everyone does these horrible acts, whether or not it's intentional. This hippie basically takes him to Cincinnati, and he starts reflecting about the past, his childhood, and he starts thinking about his future, even about his father. Like, does he want to grow up to become his father and enlist in the Vietnam War and get married and stuff, right? He doesn't really know what he wants for the future, and that's why the movie was left off open-ended. We don't know what's going to happen to Arvin. Yeah, and that basically concludes everything. He didn't go home, he just kind of kept going in life. So yeah, that's basically a summary of the movie. There's a lot of tragedy, it's very dark, you know, a lot of death. Arvin ended up killing like 4 people, which is insane. This timeline was pretty clear. Sorry that I wasn't specific with the timeline because it jumps around within like the 1940s and 50s and I think even early 60s. Yeah, you should get the gist that the story kind of played around the Russell family, starting with Willard, then Arvin. And I really liked that transition. I liked how every character basically connected in some way. They introduced people in different areas, but they all kind of correlated at some point and even gave like some background. I liked that. I really liked the ending, how it was just open-ended. I couldn't really tell what would happen to Arvin, but yeah, this boy has been through so much shit in life. He realizes there's so many bad people out there, but he's just doing his best. He's still following his morals and is just a good guy. Obviously, there's a lot more to the movie, and I just tried my best kind of to wrap things up. So yeah, that's about it. I definitely would recommend the movie and hope you guys did enjoy this. Please give me feedback or let me know if I should change things, do things differently. Have a great rest of your day, and that's it. Peace out.